I probably watched somebody's podcast and was like, instead of waiting till I'm 60 years old to go to my retreat, why don't I do that shit now?
Mm-hmm.
And this house popped up. And then we got to the point it got so stressful that I was like, you know what, fuck this. Let's just not do it. It's too much going on right now. Let's just stay here. But we had already bought tickets to Atlanta. So I was like, fuck it, let's just go see our friends.
Canada had basketball.
And there's a basketball tournament. Let's just go see our friends. Let's just take the school tour anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then we flew up there, and my property manager was like, hey, are you still going to come look at this property? We were like, we told you that we weren't going to do this and that the property was too expensive. And she was like,
we thought it was already under contract.
Yeah, and thought it was under contract. She was like, well, they want you to see the property. I don't know if she just wanted us to see the property. Maybe she's lying to us or what. But we were like, fuck it. All right, we'll go do the school tour. We'll go check out the property and just go with the flow. But we've already made up our mind. We're not going to do this. So we go to the property and we're like, oh shit, dude. Like this wasn't like a gimmick. It wasn't touched up or anything. This property is like a one of a kind place. And so we went there and we're like, okay, let's go to the school. Went to the school and immediately we're like, you're doing the biggest disservice to your kids ever by sending them to the schools. Like the school was like 100x what they're going to right now.
Wow.
Yeah. The kids walking around were like not the same. They weren't even human.
Yeah.
They were all presidential.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know what it is.
So we did that. And then we went to hang out with our friends. And we're like, wow, this feels really familiar. Like this feels like home. And then I took my son to a OT. And you know what OT is? Overtime Elite?
Yeah.
Took him to the Overtime Elite game. Mind blown about the basketball in Atlanta. And just everything came together in a way which was like, and then we timed it to the airport. It's 11 minutes from my doorstep to the Delta terminal. And so we're like, fuck it. We'll put in an offer. We'll apply to school, see what happens. They accepted the offer. Everything started lining up. And it was like, you know what? We pushed against it so hard and it pushed back. So
interesting parlay for that conversation. Do you guys believe in that? Like signs and like things showing you that this is what we need to do? Like, how do you read that?
Yeah, because...
And how do you guys make decisions as a duo?
A lot of back and forth communication. I'll try to sabotage ideas to make sure that it's the right thing. I'll try to trash it. And then if it floats back to the surface enough times, then it's like, okay, this is the right thing. Very process driven with making decisions now. Lack of impulse versus me. I'm extremely impulsive before, and I've gotten burned one too many times. So now want to test the idea over and over and over again. I'll run it by her, run it by 5 to 10 other people that I trust, and make sure that there's nothing that we're not seeing.
We ask the same question. He asks me the same questions all the time. Like we have a ritual at this point where he comes home or we meet at home after work. We leave the kids in the living room or wherever they are. We retreat back to our space in our bedroom and we kind of unpack our days. And during those types of downtimes, we will sit there and go back and forth, and he will say to me or I will say to him, and we will run it back and forth. Are we doing the right thing? Are we making the right decisions? That sort of thing. And so we will kind of not beat it to the ground, but we will communicate in that manner. And just going back to what you asked before about believing in like signs and things like that, I've just had way too many instances of where things have not worked out. And then I reflect back upon if it had worked out for me and how that would have taken my life in a different direction or been more stressful or whatever the case may be. And there have just been, whether it becomes to my professional career and decisions that I put in for jobs and I didn't get them and I was upset at the time, and then I reflect back or I see what that person has had to do to get that job off the ground or do whatever. And I'm like, oh man, I would be divorced. I would be, my child would be neglected, whatever the case may be. And so when things don't work out, we had an instance, within the last couple years where we were doing franchising. We're thinking about opening up something that was going to be more for myself and our oldest daughter.
Yeah.
And it didn't end up working out, very surprisingly so, because we kind of thought it was going to be something that was going to be an easy thing. And it didn't work out, and we were shocked by it. And now that we reflect upon seeing the space that we were going to choose, seeing how life has worked itself out and how that did not work out for us, I'm like, that didn't work out because it wasn't meant to work out, because it would have latched us here longer.
We really pushed hard for it.
Really
I mean, it was a franchise. I cussed the guy out. I was fighting, extremely furious. We pushed so hard, and it pushed back just as hard. It pushed back really hard.
Interesting.
And it was to our betterment, for sure.
How do you guys think through a move with Cannon being 13? How old are your other children?
8, and the other one's 23.
Okay, so the 23-year-old, this doesn't necessarily have as big of an impact on, but from a 13 and 8-year-old side, how do you guys think, and what were the conversations you guys were having about making a move like this?
So the 13-year-old, he's a 6'6", ranked athlete that has a very, very, very good shot, realistic shot at having success in sports. So his life is a life of travel right now, and he has pretty much a career. And so he's never going to be home from here on out. And it doesn't matter. And then with the 8-year-old, was very adamant about making both of them extroverted, very, very friendly, very, very good communicators, and not afraid of people or to make new friends. And so they're not the typical kid that's going to go sit in a corner and be like traumatized by a move. They go in every single room and make friends with everyone. And so they're fine anywhere they go. And so this is just simply going to be an upgrade for them, not a downgrade. Plus the property that they're moving to is out of a storybook. Yeah. And so their life and experiences there, I would imagine, will be second to none for most children, especially in the United States, and especially being in a city while also not being in a city. So they're in Atlanta, but they live a rural lifestyle in the city. It's the best of both worlds. So I think they're going to be fine. And plus with social media and the connections now, it's not like back when we were kids where you just never saw your friends again. Not to mention that our kids are already friends with some kids up there already.
Gotcha.
So
makes that super easy.
Yeah.
What about from your perspective? How do you see, how are they coming to you with this situation versus how are they coming to dad?
I think, my daughter has had some, I'm going to miss my friends, but at the same time, like we're traveling there this weekend and she's going to go to a friend's birthday party there.
Yeah.
So again, the same thing. We have a foundation there. It's not like we just are throwing them to the wolves. They've been there. They've gotten to see our friends who we associate with up there, seen the property, seen their schools beforehand, walked the schools. We've asked for their opinion. What do you think? That sort of thing. So it's not like we're just these authoritative parents saying this is what we're going to do. We've wanted to, introduce it to them, and so that we could get their emotions about it and their opinions about it. And, there's a little bit of, well, you guys are going to do what you're going to do regardless. But, obviously we're the parents, so we are going to make whatever the ultimate decision is for their betterment. Yeah. And I think they know that. And so Storm, who's the 8-year-old, again, she has those little reservations, but I think she's ready to go. And again, just like Carlton said, with Cannon, he's still going to see his friends. He's still going to maintain, same teammates to a degree. But I think he also sees it as an opportunity to start fresh and do something new. He was born there. So he was
born in Atlanta?
He was born in Atlanta. We lived in Atlanta before.
Oh, okay.
So that's why we kind of have that foundation. We lived there for 11, 12 years.
Gotcha.
Before we moved back to South Florida. And so, I think overall he'll be fine too.
With NIL, the way that it is, Cannon has a real possibility to walk into high school and, I mean, not even you're allowed to get paid in high school now, right? Like you're legit allowed to get paid and like real paid too. How do you guys manage that? Like he's going to be in a position just based on what I see and what I know about the way that the NIL is turning out, like he is a professional and he's going to be treated like a professional. How do you guys keep that kid spirit in him while still allowing him to self-actualize in his career?
Keeping away technology, keeping away a phone. He doesn't have a phone right now.
No way.
No, he doesn't have a phone. The house we're moving to, we're placing one television in the house in a shared area. Their area, they won't have a television. The home is situated in a way where it's a kid's wonderland.
Yeah.
We'll be outside shooting. We'll be outside fishing in the lake. We will be working out. We'll be out at campfires and doing things like that. When he gets around his friends and he travels, he gets to spend time with his friends. He gets to see the world. But we are really focused on trying to raise a well-rounded child and very conscious of the childhood aspect. And so we're conscious of it. We're snatching away technology when it takes too long. We're anti raising our children the way, I guess, kind of what you're leading to with this question. We're anti having our son turn out addicted to social media, at least at an early age, and missing out on a childhood. We want them to be well-rounded. We want them to date and to court and to have some good experiences and have some quiet time and some time to think and develop. And so we're really focused on that. We're focused on having him in church, in sports, traveling, having fun, and having good communication with us at all times. And we don't want to lose him. And we don't want to lose him to the business of sports. And the one thing that I think is an advantage is that he's been exposed to a lot of what material things that an ideal deal could bring.
Gotcha.
So I really don't think that my son's going to have the mindset of like, oh, I just got to check. I need to go out and buy a sports car. If he wants a sports car, we can figure out a way to get a sports car. It's not going to be because he got a check from sports.
Gotcha.
And so those things shouldn't be novel to him. And that's by design. It's our job to provide a good lifestyle for the kids. They have a good lifestyle. And so it's not like, I just heard somebody use this comment, a trench baby. It's not a trench baby situation where it's like, oh my God, I got to go out and get all this bling. It's just like, hey, what's the best thing that we can do with this opportunity? And he doesn't need or want for anything now. And so it should be like, hey, we're putting this away. Focus on the sports. Focus on living your life. Don't worry about the money.
What about your perspective?
And I think, another thing that will add to that is that our kids have to do things, right? So it's fundamental that you still clean up after yourself, you do your chores and those types of things, right? Volunteer. He was just doing Habitat for Humanity with Carlton recently, building homes. We've, volunteered for church on multiple occasions. So, we build those types of things in too. No, you have to earn things, right? My son will say, oh, can I have X, Y, and Z? And I'll be like, you have to earn it. I'm not just going to give it to you. And that's kind of what he's been entrenched in South Florida, is that mindset of, oh, my friends they get it. They just get to have those things. And I'm
Boca
like,
babies.
Well, that's not right. That's not how we run our house. You have to earn everything that you want. So he had to earn his phone. And when he did not do well with that or didn't necessarily utilize his phone in a way that we thought was good for him, it got taken. And it's going to be taken until we see that there is some sort of maturity there where he can handle having it again. And so it's locked up in a safe right now. And he'll ask, when can I ever get a phone back? And say, hey, when you earn it. So that's the fundamental foundation of how we parent, is you have to earn everything that you get, because that's what we've had to do.
How do you balance the love? Like, I heard this quote, but like every parent is in their early days, they're loved. And then they have to go through, at least how they explain it, they have to go through some period of disdain, or like they quote it as hate, but I don't necessarily, like, there's plenty of times where I was like, I hate you, Mom. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's moments like, how do you guys navigate that? Especially from my understanding, I remember when I was the biggest, pain in my mom's ass, and it was when I was in middle school, high school, like just trying to figure out my own brain? Like, how do you guys manage that, and how do you co-parent in that way?
Well, we'll see how it turns out. But right now, the communication is heavy in the household, very heavy. So topics aren't avoided, and the kids are really not spoken to like kids. My son, I don't change my tone around him. I don't pause and stop what I'm saying around him. He knows what's going on, and so we communicate. And even before he's 13 now, before he became 13, before he became 12, we're like, look, there's going to become a day where you're going to feel like you hate me. And there's a biological reason for that. I actually learned that you're supposed to hate your father because it's actually scientifically stated that when a son reaches maturity, that's supposed to kick in to kick the son away, the farthest away from the village as possible to prevent inbreeding.
Wow.
Yeah. So you're supposed to leave your village and leave your community as far as possible to go create another healthy community and not destroy the biological pool. So I've had that conversation with them. I'm like, you're going to hate me and it's for a reason. You're going to feel this way and it's for a reason. I don't hate you, son. You don't hate me. I love you. I'm here for you. I've walked in on my son doing stupid stuff. I've walked in on my son doing embarrassing things, extremely embarrassing things. And at those times, I went to her for a second and then I regroup and I say to myself, this is an opportunity to avoid having that type of tumultuous relationship with my kid and go, but look, bro, I know what you're doing. I did the same thing too. Let's talk about it. We can talk about it and let's move on. So there's heavy, heavy, heavy communication and there's a heavy consciousness on that because I went through that with my parents. I know now that that's not necessary. I know now that there's got to be some give and take with the kid.
Yeah.
And that he's going to do some stupid stuff. But at the end of the day, we love each other. And I want the kid to make it through. And so we talk about everything. We talk about sex. We talk about drugs. We talk about hoes. We talk about, avoid these girls, avoid these hoes. This is what they're trying to do. They're trying to set you up. They're trying to get pregnant. They're trying to, they're going to, look, you're an athlete. They're going to say that you raped them. Everyone's going to say you raped them. Like, especially the girls that look like that girl, that profile, these things. And it's on repeat. And there's a conversation we have over and over and over. And then it's different for my daughters. It's a different conversation. But it's always an honest, brutally honest, blunt conversation that leaves nothing to be curious about. This is what it is. We've talked about it. And it's not a perfect situation, but I've noticed that it is a different form of communication and a different type of relationship than I've seen with many parents, especially in our community.
Yeah. How do you see it?
I would mirror that. I have conversations with my son that are more tempered towards obviously a female perspective. He has his, as you can see. But yeah, I've had conversations with my son and with my daughter at this point, my 8-year-old, because I was raised in a household where you really didn't talk about certain things, right? I didn't know much about when I was growing up, what to expect, biologically or anything like that when I was growing up. And I didn't want my children to feel like surprised by anything. And so I've had conversations with Cannon when he was starting to get into middle school and elementary school, even talking about, hey, you're going to run into girls. You like girls. This is what a period is, right? This is because I know little girls that got embarrassed in elementary and middle school, because they had accidents and whatever, and people made fun of them for it, And so I was just like, you need to, I don't want you, you're a big kid. We've always preached to Cannon, you have to be a gentle giant. Be a gentle giant. You don't want to be considered a bully. Everybody's already going to be intimidated by you just by your sheer size. So you want to be able to come off as that gentleman that, he's back and forth with it. He's a good kid, but he has his moments, right? And so, I just made sure I was like, don't be that kid. Don't be the kid that's making fun of that girl. I'm going to be very upset with you if you are. Mm-hmm. And he has a great relationship with his dad. I think he's a mama's boy, right? He's a mama's boy.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I could have that conversation with him, because I'm like, your mother's gone through it, your grandmother, your sisters, everybody. Yeah. So, give people grace.
Yeah.
Give them the same grace you would want to receive, right? And so you're going through your hormonal changes, as he alluded to, and you're going to want people to give you that same grace as you do that, right? And so when he gets upset or he gets emotional, we come to him and say, you need to go decompress. You're having a moment here, right? I know you don't really want to speak to us in this way, or you had this happen at school today, and you might be having, some sort of, you going through something biologically right now. Your hormones are going crazy, whatever the case may be. You need to go take a beat and think about what you're saying, who you're saying it to, and then you can come back. And he'll come back and he'll be like, Mommy, Dad, I'm sorry for how I spoke to you or what I did. But we try and give him that grace.
Yeah.
Right? We're not always successful in that, in identifying that off the bat and have our knee-jerk reactions to being spoke to in a certain way, or it's not perfect, But I would say, the majority of the time we do try and speak to him in a manner where we're like, buddy, you need to calm down.
Yeah.
It's your hormones that are talking right now. It's not you, and so that's how we kind of navigate Cannon. Same thing with Storm. I've had conversations with her as a little girl, what to expect based on how I was raised and my biology and all that kind of stuff, and what she can expect out of, life and all that kind of stuff. And it freaks her out a little bit.
Yeah, 100%.
It freaks her out a little bit, but I want them to be more prepared and not be surprised by anything. And so that's the nature of how we communicate with them.
It's interesting.
The boy, he's also scared of us, I think, to a certain extent. He knows that we're crazy and we'll swing on him.
That's why you have mama's boy right there.
Well, I tell him all the time too. I'm a physical woman. You know what I'm saying? Like I wrestle.
Yeah,
I do all that kind of stuff. I tell him I stay in the gym because you're not gonna come at me sideways, right? That's why I stay in the gym.
Yeah.
So that I can stay strong for as long as possible. There's gonna be a day. I tell them both of my children, there's going to be a day as I get older and you get, more mature, that you're going to be stronger than me. You're going to be faster than me and all of those types of things. But until that day, I'm stronger. I'm faster. I will beat you.
Yeah.
I don't let my children win. They're not beating me in anything until the day that they can beat me. And that's it.
That's awesome.
And he was actually born into, like, where we live. I mean, it was like very, very, very poverty-stricken neighborhood.
Yeah.
But he's grown up in Boca Raton and Parkland. And funny story. I mean, one day he was going probably through some hormones and really testing his boundaries. And I had to put my hands on him. And I did so appropriate to his size.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting because he was like, this is it. I'm leaving the house. I can't believe you would just do that to your son. I was like, okay, leave. Go. And so he started packing his stuff to leave, and he didn't know this at the time, but we had a police officer that had come to talk to him before about behavioral issues.
Yeah.
I gave that police officer free services for his girlfriend and wife at Forever Young. So this guy was packing his bags, storming out the house. The police officer pulls up in a squad car at the exact same time unannounced. And he's freaking out. And he's like, Dad, why are the cops here? Why'd you call the cops? I was like, let me go handle this real quick. So I go out all the way out where he can't hear me. And the cop's like, hey, man, I just stopped by to really thank you for all the services and everything. She loved it. He thinks that the cops are here for him. So like the whole experience is so traumatic because he just got hands put on him. Then the police show up.
Oh my God.
He thinks the police showed up for him. And so like that was like a real pivotal time for him where I think he was like, let me chill.
That's actually the funny. I have a parallel to that. I was in middle school and I used to get bullied. I was a smaller kid, so I was the easiest target to just like get bullied, whatever. We're in a gym locker room, and this kid said something about my mom, and I just saw red, and I threw him up against the locker, stuck him in the face, and then ran out of the gym. Long story short, I got back to, he had a birthday party that weekend, and his buddies, the buddies of the guy that I beat up, showed up to this birthday party. Showed up to the birthday party and like told the dad, we're in middle school, granted. So these kids are like trying to act all whatever. And told the dad, like, where's Jamie? We want to kick his ass and all this type of stuff. And I'm terrified, obviously. My mom finds out. I go to it was in the neighborhood. So I walk home. I go to my mom's place. My mom does the same thing. She had a relationship with the cop. The cop shows up. The cop puts me in cuffs, sits me in the police car, and goes, this is what happens when you let that emotion that you felt run rampant. Mm-hmm. I don't care who was at fault or who did what, but like, you were the one that caused the reaction. They showed up to the house. They didn't do anything to you. So therefore they're not at, and it was like this really eye-opening moment of like, you know, I kind of was like, I thought I was in the right, but the reality was my mom just put the context around me of like, there's consequences to every action, every reaction, and everything like that. And if I had a dad at that time, guess what? I probably would have gotten hands put on me too, because that, like, we need that. And there's such a, try to be careful about how I say this. There's this feeling of like, the parenting now is like the kids are supposed to have like anonymity where they're not allowed, like, you're not allowed to put your hands on them.
Oh, it's the wussification of the nation.
Okay, so
that's the better word. I mean, there's a different word I can use.
That's what I was gonna say.
Children are running households now instead of the parents running the households.
Yep.
And I can't tell you how many times we've seen it in conversations that we've had with school administrators and our peers and things like that, and just how kids are navigating sports and school. And it's just like, when we were in school, when we were growing up, if you had an interaction with another kid, they called you a name or whatever, you bucked back. You had something to say back, and you guys handled it. It wasn't, okay, oh, you called me a name, I'm just going to report you to the principal, and now that child is getting internal suspension because you've been bullied. Mm-hmm. I mean, how is that child going to navigate society when it doesn't go their way? And that's exactly what you're talking about here.
You have your kids in sports, you have them in church, you have a lot of systems around them. I like to look at, especially, I was so grateful that my mom raised me in a church because she was a single mom. So like it wasn't like she could be there all the time, like everywhere. So I was in sports and I was in church. For the main reason, now that I look back on it, was to put the right structure and value system around me. So that way, even when she wasn't there, it made things easier. How did you guys, when you guys were raising your kids, was that just immediate, or did you guys have discussions, or how did you decide how you were the systems that you were gonna put around your kids?
I think it was assumed. I mean, before we had children, my dad is a Baptist minister, and before we had children, we were in the church regularly. And I think it was assumed that what you just said, the structure was necessary to a certain degree. Not that we are religious freaks or anything like that, but again, structure, boundaries, socialization. And then the same thing with sports, and especially with Trina's athletic background, I think that was a non-negotiable as well. I think even before we had kids, probably before we got married, that would have been an assumption. There was just no way. Mm-hmm. And so, but then also comes into play the things you're talking about. The benefits, the structure, the camaraderie, and the socialization of that is just a non-negotiable for us. So I think it was an assumption. It's a no-brainer for a household like ours. Mm-hmm. They're going to do something. Yeah, everybody's got to do something, and that's the rule. Even my older daughter, that's 23. She's heavily involved in training, and she works for my company, and everybody knows that everyone has to be doing something. You can't just be doing nothing.
Did they come out of the womb and they were dunking? Like, was Cannon just like coming, like the second you guys?
The exact opposite.
Really?
Yeah. I think people made fun. I was really sensitive to this as well because when my son started playing basketball, people just made fun of him. I mean, he looked really goofy. He looked silly. He used to dance on the basketball court.
He's a kid. He's being a kid.
Nah, but he wasn't like the other kids were serious. A lot of other kids were serious. He was not serious at all. And it was really kind of uncomfortable for the first 3 years because people just kind of laughed at us, made fun of him. And you could just tell the parents didn't take him seriously, thought that he's probably one of the kids, this isn't going anywhere. And so it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that. It took time. It took work.
It took work. I would say that I have a different perspective on that. You know, the way that Cannon even got into basketball was Carlton going into a gym. We were at LA Fitness. He went and he approached somebody that was training somebody, say, hey, I got this kid. He's going to be big. You know, take a look at him. We want to get him involved in basketball. At that point, he was just like an I-9. It was silly basketball. And he was like, I'm not training a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old. That's ridiculous. And then he saw Cannon's size and he was like, all right, maybe, you know. And so
now he saw you. He saw you and I. He didn't see Cannon's size. He said once he saw you come around the corner and I was talking to him.
Tall parents, they always go with the mom. They say if the mom is tall, the sons are always taller than their mothers is what they say. So that's what, I guess they looked at me and I was in the gym. But at the same time, Cannon, what I've always preached to him, what I preach to all of the kids is, you know, you have to take advantage of your gifts.
Yeah.
Cannon, obviously, he has been off of the charts his whole life. He just went to the doctor yesterday, and literally, he has grown 3 to 4 inches every year of his life. So my motto is, you can't be tall for no damn reason. I tell both of my children that you will use that gift to do whatever it is you plan on doing in life, right? It will parlay into something, whether it be your education or whatever. And so can't be tall for no damn reason. I tell Storm the same thing. She's in the 95th percentile for height. She plays tennis now. She's still trying to figure out what she wants to do. She hasn't been so focused as Cannon has been focused from the beginning. But definitely always needed that structure. We definitely knew from the beginning that was a no-brainer. I don't know anything but sports. I've been playing sports since I was 5. It has taken me to many places. Took me to college. I played professionally. And so, you know, if they have that gift, they're going to use it for sure.
6 years old. How tall was he?
Oh, at 6? I don't know. He was I don't remember, but he was taller than everybody else.
So he was just always.
He was always taller than everybody else.
Huh.
Always. He has a preschool picture where it's a group picture and Cannon's head is like this.
Yeah.
Above everybody else.
That's insane.
Always been huge.
I grew up in a household where my mom was really strict about who I could be friends with, and there was always levels to it. It's like I could go to school and have a friend at school, but for that friend to then be like the person that I got to hang out with or whatever, there was a huge process to it. It started with they had to go to my mom's, it was always like at my mom's place. My mom was always like, let them come here, let them, you know, let me see how they interact. And then it's like, I got to meet their parents. And then there was just a process along the way. Are you guys very strict in that sense?
Yeah, there's steering. There's steering for sure. There's a lot of subconscious and subliminal steering as well. So, I mean, personally, like if I see a kid I don't want my kid hanging out with, I'll just start talking bad about them. I start talking bad about their family, the kid, everybody, just really to steer. It's a part of the process. Like, I don't want you around that family. I don't want you around that kid. Look at what that kid's doing. Look at what he's getting into. Look at what he does. Look at his behavior. Look at his parents. You end up like that. Like, so it's steering. With sports, he's typically around the same people over and over and over again. And so there is a lot of parameters around that. And with the little girl, I think we're probably more protective of her. And so, yeah, I mean, she's not doing sleepovers or anything like that. And again, we're steering. But again, there's not all that hanging out's not going on yet. I mean, that's probably going to come later in the teens.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of steering. And as they get older, the steering will probably get more aggressive because you talk about dating, relationships, the potential of having a child, it'll be blatant in terms of who can be around and who can't.
What's your guys' values in terms of who can be around and who can't?
I mean, for me, I'm Carlton is a way more gregarious and social person than I am. I am a very private and I wouldn't say antisocial, but I'm a lot more. My circle is a lot smaller.
Yep.
It's always been that way. We've had a lot of conversation about how he deals with his friendships and how I deal with my friendships. And so for me, Cannon, and through sport, you're obviously exposed to a lot of different types of people. People come from all different socioeconomic backgrounds, all different demographics. And so, you know, while you want them to be accepting because you don't want them to be judgmental at the same time, And you can learn a lot from other people's circumstances and where they're from and all that kind of stuff. So, it's not necessarily based upon, their economic status. It's not based upon, race or anything of that nature. It's just based upon, are they good people? Are they teaching them the same types of values that we hold, right? I don't want them around any spoiled children, which is also why we are kind of moving away from where we are in South Florida to present them with another set of values that are more grounded, that will help propel them in the future to doing other things. But
she's speaking more because she's saying the politically proper way of saying it.
That's my take.
There's definitely for me some cultural aspects that come into play. I discriminate based on all subjects and categories when it comes to my kids, all of them. And I want my kids to be around winners and people who are going in the right direction. If my kid's talking about dating, especially, there's got to be a tangible benefit that we're seeking here. We both, married for love. We were born into different classes, I would say, and definitely not the classes that we are in right now. But I don't want to make my kids struggle for no reason, and I don't want to make things any more difficult than they have to be. And so I wouldn't say what those parameters are on camera, but they're definitely a lot tighter than maybe what she delved into for me personally.
It's interesting. I didn't realize this until I just got engaged. I didn't come from a struggling, like my mom was we were always middle class. So but I got to experience polarity in sports. Like sports actually gave, like I played where we were in Jacksonville. I played football in the, like you could call it played football in the hood. And so everybody around me was the games that I went, or the post game, like parties where all the parents would be, I got so exposed to the entire spectrum on all sides through sports and through these different modalities. But when it comes to a significant other, I didn't realize the significance of that. For example, my dad died broke. My mom never spoke to me about finances in a way that was informative. It was always just like you either had the money or you didn't have the money, and there wasn't questions about why or how or how do we make more? None of those conversations. So I self-admittedly am uneducated in a lot of ways when it comes to finances. What does that create? That creates a lot of pain early in my 20s to experience all that. If I were to choose a significant other who has the exact same understanding of money that I do, we would 100% end up in a painful financial situation for nothing else other than just lack of experience as a collective. I was lucky that I got to pair myself with somebody who had a huge savings, a huge like personal savings. Like she built her own savings to where I'm like, how the hell did you make, like it's not like she was handed anything. She worked, worked at a restaurant, hustled, did all that and saved her money. So now when we're looking at life as a collective, I'm like, oh my gosh, thank God, because I have somebody that can kind of look at me and be like, no. Like it's that polarity that you guys are talking about with your relationship. I'm interested. How did you guys meet?
We met in high school. And I have a picture. I have a picture of the first time that, I don't know if we met or we were in the same building, but we were at a party, and somehow she's in this picture. I got a picture of her.
He always tells me this. I've never seen this picture.
Prior to meeting or whatever. But, I was like 14, 15 years old at the time.
16.
And I was 15 at the time.
You were about to turn 17 when we met at 16.
Yeah, this is before that.
Okay.
And I was, having some little baby high school relationship and at the time. And so I couldn't say anything to her or vice versa. But then we had mutual friends. And I was smart enough to know when I was going to public school, Plantation, Florida. I feel like there's a lot I could say about that school that was not positive. And so I was smart enough to know that if I was going to be dating someone, the place to go and the source was to St. Thomas, the private school. You know, and so I had friends over there. I had some girls that were friends that were over there, and I knew enough. My mom had taught me enough in terms of class and etiquette and what you want in a woman to know that, you know, there's some quality people over there. And so we shared some friends, and I met her at a party in high school where we had a mutual friend that we're still friends with to this day. And she has a story about how I approached her, but I met her at a high school party.
How did he?
So that's accurate.
Yeah.
All that's accurate. So we're at this party. I'm there with my friends. We're dancing, and the music stops. I come off the dance floor, and one of my friends says, "Oh, you know, that guy over there just came up to dance with you when the music stopped." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I've seen him before, you know." And then our friend, this mutual friend that we have, whose party it was, says, "Oh, hey, my friend Carlton wants to talk to you." I said, "Okay." And he's like, "Oh, he said to meet him outside at his car." And I was like, who? I was like, not me. I was like, if he wants to talk to me, he better come in here and talk to me inside this party. I'm not going out to go talk to no dude at a car. So she relayed the message. He came in, spoke to me. We then walked out to his car and we spoke. And he gave me his phone number on it was a Marine card, right? Yeah. Marine Corps card. I still have it.
Going to the Marines at the time.
Yeah, and so he gave me his phone number. He wrote it down on this card, and he gave it to me. I still have that card. And then we started talking, and that's how we met. And at that time, he was like, "Let me get your number." And I was like, "I don't have a phone right now."
Huh.
The bill was too high. We weren't rich by any means, and so phone was off, and I was like, I don't have a phone right now. And he was like, well, that's when he gave me his phone number. And so I would call him when I could. And then he gave me a beeper. He bought or found or had or stole. I was getting there, or stole.
Stole it from a girl at school.
Yeah, so he stole a pager and stole his pager and gave it to me. And so he would page me. And then I would go in the car with my quarters and go to the payphone, and I would call him.
At Publix.
There was a Publix, or there was a gas station down the street on Broward and Nob Hill. And I would go to that payphone and I would call him. And that was how we started talking.
And this is why I have I don't really have a lot of tolerance for people and their bullshit, you know, and their weakness and their excuses. It started at a young age because I'm like, look, I met my wife in high school. She used to go to a payphone. I used to have to call her. Sometimes I used to have to call her back at a payphone at Publix, you know? And so it's like, that's where the roots of our relationship come from.
Yeah.
You know, and nothing about the courting process with her was easy. And so it was one thing to have a conversation with her and speak. It was another thing to be able to go on a date with her. Mm-hmm. I think the first time I went out with her, I think before I got approval was with her friends. I had to meet her. But after that, I was told that I had to go and meet with her mom at a soccer game by myself. And this is not—
I was playing in the game.
This is not a big deal, you know, for a grown man, but I'm a 16-year-old boy, and I had to go find her mom in the stands while she's playing soccer, go introduce myself, and sit there with her for the whole game. And her mom is an introvert. She's very quiet, doesn't say shit. And so I had to do that just to get the first level of acceptance to be able to go out. And that wasn't it. And then I had to go to her house and I had to go meet a male. Her dad never spoke to me. And so her dad, I guess, had instructed the brother to come talk to me. So before I could take her out, the first time the brother came out and they're like looking through the window, and the brother's like, look, that's my only sister. You better take care of her. And if you do anything to her, I'm going to fucking kill you. And, you know, her brother's like huge. And that's what happened. I was like, and I'm laughing because at the same time, I'm a delinquent. And I was like, well, me and my friends will just, you know, beat you with a bat or something, whatever. You know, but I was like, whatever, dude. You know, I'm just kind of like smirking to myself. But then they allowed her to come out. I think the dad was in the house watching this, but he would never say anything to me. And then I was allowed to go out. But it was like a process and steps to that, which I think probably goes into our relationship as a whole, because if you look at anything that just comes too easy, you don't have as much value and appreciation for it. So at every step of the process with our relationship, I had value and appreciation. I was earning an opportunity to go out with Trina, and her time was valuable. And at the very same time, she was very notable in sports. So she would be like in the newspaper or being interviewed and all these things. And I'm sitting there like cutting out her news clippings and stuff like that. And so everything in our courting process was a situation where I was actually courting, going through hoops, and a fan of the situation. It wasn't something where it was like, oh, I just met this girl and it's cool. It was like, no, you have to work for this.
It's so funny that's, I didn't even realize that I had to do something similar. My fiance was big in my fraternity, was one of her best friends. And so I met her my freshman year of college. And like, I remember going to my buddy.
Round three,
early round three. We're talking for like first pick round three. But I was talking to my buddy and I was like, yo, like, let me like, you know, what's up with Jordan? You know what I mean? Like and he goes, no, you are not grown enough for her. And like made this whole thing. It was a year and a half of me being stupid and always just in the back of my head, like, oh, she's cool. Talk to her. She'd make me feel stupid. And I was like, you know what I mean? This is cool. Like, and long story short, I had to earn that. Like I had to earn her respect, and not even just her respect, her friends' respect, in order to just open up a door to even be potentially in a relationship. But I think we live in a world now where it's so easy that you actually can't place any value on a relationship because you're not working for it. And it's an interesting perspective. So you guys meet in high school, you go play sports in college, correct?
Yep.
How did you guys maintain, like, did you guys start dating, junior year, and then that you were off to the races, or how did it go?
He was a year ahead of me in school. So we met my junior year, his senior year in high school. So he went off to Howard. I still had my senior year to go through in high school. And then I went to Wake Forest and we broke up. Yeah, we broke up. We broke up in college. We did not stay together. We still maintained our friendship. I went to DC many times. I think I saw everywhere that Carlton lived every year that he was in college, and vice versa. So he came to visit me at Wake, and I went to visit him in DC. So we maintained our friendship, even though we didn't maintain our romantic relationship. And I think that was kind of the foundation of everything, is that we had that time where we weren't romantically involved. We weren't together, but we still hung out and we still enjoyed each other's company. We still,
I call her when I was every time I was drunk. Like she's the person I call every.
And my roommate,
night,
did you
1, 2, 3 a.m.
Always
for years?
Did you, in your heart, be like that? There, like, what did you feel like was the gravitational pull towards each other? Like, why did you keep that relationship as a friendship? Did you kind of in the back of your head be like, there's something more here?
Well, my mom will tell you that when I introduced her to Trina, that I had already told my mom that I was going to marry Trina. That she's the type of girl that I would marry, so that I would put her on a shelf, for marriage. My mom will tell you that verbatim.
Yeah.
So I couldn't answer the question you just asked me, other than the fact that, again, okay, so like I told you, when I would get